Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Corner at Choose Adventure Media. My name is Zach, and in tonight's episode, I will be giving a live instant reaction to the Oregon Ducks' dominant win over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. It was Friday Night Lights at Autzen Stadium, and the Ducks looked phenomenal. Dante Moore broke the all-time record for completion percentage by a Ducks quarterback. With a minimum of 20 attempts, he had a 90% completion percentage. He went 27 of 30. The defense looked dominant. We were able to run the ball as well. Will Stein called a masterful game, and we will be talking about We'll be talking about the game tonight, and we'll be talking about the Ducks' playoff hopes moving forward. Couple of games left in the regular season. And yeah, so let's jump right into it. As always, let me know in the comments, what were you guys most impressed by? What were you guys most disappointed by? What do you guys think about the Ducks' playoff chances? What were some of your favorite moments from the game? Would love to talk to you guys in the chat and hear from you guys in the comments after this is posted. So my initial take is Dante Moore looked phenomenal tonight. And also, as you guys know, I've been a little critical of Will Stein's play calling in the past, and he called an amazing game tonight. And I really hope that he takes this moving forward, and I hope that he calls every game just like he called this one. The Ducks established the run early. They used a lot of play action. They got Dante out of the pocket a lot, which is where I think he's at his best. And I hope that Will Stein does more of what he did tonight of get Dante out of the pocket early, because that really builds Dante's confidence. And Dante was locked in from the start tonight. He looked confident. He looked really good. Probably Dante's best game of the season. Some of the throws that he made were absolutely NFL top draft pick type throws. He had 3 incompletions, and only one of them was really on a deep pass, and it was just barely out of the reach of Jamari Johnson. He might have been able to make an amazing play on that. It was definitely an overthrow, and some of Dante's throws were a little overthrown. But great game by Dante Moore. Great play calling by Will Stein. I liked the use of the down the field passing attack. I liked the use of establishing the run. And then the defense just played phenomenally as well. Granted, Minnesota's offense isn't amazing, but still, this defense is incredibly talented and disciplined, and I think they showed it on the first Minnesota possession. Minnesota tried to come out with a couple of trick plays, but the defense, they stayed home, they stayed in their lane, and they defended them extremely well. Minnesota, they were able to attack some one-on-one matchups early on. It's no secret the Ducks like to play one-on-one man coverage. So Minnesota had a couple of, route combinations, and they were aggressive on some one-on-one matchups early on that they had some success with, but the Ducks clamped up in the end. Overall, the team stats, so the Ducks, they had 510 total yards of offense, 331 passing, 179 rushing, but the game felt really balanced. Let's see, there were 33 passing attempts and 30 rushing attempts. So overall, the game was very, very balanced. It was actually 179 yards is actually a low rushing total for the Ducks on the season, which is funny. The Ducks averaged over 6 yards a rush, which is phenomenal. In the first half, they averaged over 8. Dante Moore absolutely has the tools to be an NFL quarterback and to be a top NFL draft pick and make an NFL franchise very happy. The biggest thing with Dante moving forward is just his consistency and his play in big games. It's no secret. I read the subreddit, and I see everyone saying the exact same thing. And I've said it before, I can tell before the game starts how Dante's going to do. And in the Iowa game, he looked a little uncertain to start, and he locked in, and he was able to eventually lock in. He didn't start the game poor and thus have a poor game all the way through, which is great growth for a young player. Really impressed by Dante Moore. Like his footwork for a young guy is phenomenal, and Will Stein actually called some phenomenal plays against zone coverage today. Saw Dante use his eyes to beat zone coverage. Like Dante can read zone coverage. I really think it was just on Will Stein earlier on in the year not calling plays against zone heavy teams that exploit zone coverage. So I really hope once we get Decorian Moore back, I hope that Will Stein continues to call these great plays to beat zone and then we are unstoppable. We have DeCorian Moore and hopefully get Gary Bryant Jr. back and Kenyon Sadiq, who are really tough to cover in man coverage, and then teams can't just drop into zone. With the elite athletes that Oregon has on the outside, zone coverage is a really easy thing to go to. But if Dante can manipulate the defense with his eyes like he did tonight, it makes the Ducks offense really hard to stop. Getting Kenyon Sadiq back was huge tonight. He looked the healthiest he's looked, honestly, since back with Oklahoma State game, Northwestern game. Clearly he's been playing through some stuff this season. And I'm glad he got rested, between the bye week and, dealing with an injury for the Iowa game. Didn't come back to hurt the Ducks in the end. So it was great to see him rested. He seemed healthy. He seemed ready to go. Really, he looked like he was back to the first game in terms of health. The running backs were phenomenal tonight. I loved the use of De'Aaron Hill out on the outside, and they used Noah Whittington a little bit on the outside. And I loved using Jordon Davison in the passing game as well. But especially with a depleted wide receiver core, and Malik Benson got banged up halfway through the game. Excuse me. I love the use of just getting the ball to the best players, no matter where they are. De'Aaron Hill's a running back, but line him up outside and get him a quick screen pass as an extension of the run game. Gets a really dynamic playmaker into the open field. I think the defensive line, again, maybe their best game of the season. Bear Alexander was constantly creating penetration. Tatum Tuioti is a problem all over the field. Matayo Uyagalele has one of the fastest get-offs and fastest jumps off the snaps in the college game right now. Like, he was past a Minnesota offensive tackle, before he was even out of his stance. So this Ducks defensive line is extremely talented, and there's so much youth. Like, Nasir Wyatt, the true freshman, was really impressive tonight. And I know he's been playing throughout the season, but tonight he looked like the next great elite pass rusher. Quick get off, and then Ashton Porter's been playing a lot this season up the middle, and the Ducks. And then at the end, whenever the Ducks were starting to bring in their reserves, there's a lot of great talent at the linebacker position with Platt and Williams and other guys there. I'm going to pull up the box score. I don't want to mess up their names. Braden Platt, he's a great young guy. Peyton Woodyard is a young guy. I'm really excited about him. Zach Grisham, very excited about him. Gavin Nix. There's a lot of really, really young talent in the linebacker core. So while I love Bryce Fetcher, while I love Jerry Mixon, while I love... oh, gosh. I don't think he played tonight, and that's going to be a problem. The Ducks have a really really athletic outside linebacker, but they play him more in the middle. The Ducks, they have talented linebackers, but it's definitely the weakness of the team, and it's definitely, like, if I had to grade it, I think I gave it a B or a B plus the other night. So, and we saw Brandon Finney Jr. again prove that he's an All-American corner, and I really hope that he ends up being an All-American corner. He'll definitely be a freshman All-American at the very least. He's so physical for a freshman. For a true freshman, he's so physical. I think Ife Obadegwu had some good reps tonight. He had a couple of bad reps, but he had a few good reps. Naeem Offord, a true freshman at corner, who's really kind of been through the ringer this season. He's had some really bad games, and he's had some better games. Tonight, he looked great. Really physical corner. Plays a lot bigger than he actually looks. Jaden Kennedy had a great game tonight. He looked better in coverage still. That pass interference that got called on Dylan Thieneman, that was really on Jaden Kennedy. That's absolutely was on him. But Kennedy looked better in coverage. Still has a lot of room for improvement, but looked better, which is exciting because, again, the Ducks cornerback 2 position is still a little open. I think it's getting more and more a split between Jaden Kennedy and Ife Obadegwu. And then I think they're going to play maybe Aaron Flowers more in that star position. I wish they would maybe bring Dalen Austin into there a little bit more. I don't know what's going on there, why Dalen Austin only comes in reserve time. but I like the idea of splitting DB2 reps between Kennedy and Ifeobadegwu depending on the situation. Theron Johnson, love his size out on the corner position. Maybe put him at the star position. But for an experienced guy, he really misses a lot of tackles. He's not great in coverage. Gets beat a lot. Can't make open field tackles really well. So that DB2 position is still a bit of an opening. But I mean, at the safety position, Dylan Thieneman's great. Aaron Flowers is phenomenal against the run and is getting better in pass coverage. And then there's so many guys that can come in at the star/box safety position, and Kingston Lopa. Who else? Peyton Woodyard is great at that as well. Dalen Austin. And then, is it Sione Laulea? Is that the guy I'm thinking of? Yeah, Sione Laulea is also a great kind of box defend the run option. So Dakota Fields, Dakota Fields just transferred. And then whenever, again, my biggest recruit crush of Trey McNutt, whenever he is healthy, I think he'll be a great option there. Or he can also play the field with his elite speed and great change of direction. I think he'll be a great option there. But this Ducks team is, again, proving that you can get hot at the right time. And a lot of people have been saying throughout the season that this Ducks team isn't everything that was cracked up to be, and I disagree with that. I think they have a lot of talent. Were they playing up to their potential? No. Was Will Stein calling great games every game? No. And even tonight, I would give Will Stein a 97%. And when you are a team as good as Oregon, there's a lot of positives, right? Like, we had 4 running backs play tonight that are excellent and can make elite plays. We have elite weapons on the outside. We have a great offensive line with a lot of depth. We have a great defensive line. We have a great secondary. So the things that really elevate you from a very good team to an elite national championship team is getting down in the weeds a little bit. And I want to talk about Will Stein. Of the one possession where the Ducks turned it over and they're deep in their own territory, I believe it was in the second quarter. I'm going to pull up the play-by-play so I don't... It was I think it was second quarter. And so So Dante Moore got sacked. Okay, whatever. It happens, especially on that play design where it was going to be a naked boot. It happens. Great play by the Minnesota defensive end as well. And then loved the play call on the second play. I think that was the pass to Jeremiah McClellan. Let's see. Yeah, so Dante Moore got sacked. There was the 5-yard penalty, which was absolutely insane to call that. Again, I just want consistency from refs, and I feel like calling Isaiah World on that penalty when he was, I don't know what, centimeters, from being in the correct position, and then later on in the game there were Minnesota players that weren't in the right position. Like, unless it's egregious, I don't think that penalty should be called. And then let's see. Oh, after that, they called a run play. Loved it. Great. Fine. And then after that was the stupid screen pass and then a pitch attempt. I'm not buying that was a designed pitch. I think that may have been Cooper Perry just trying to make something out of nothing. But also hate DR Hill's effort on that, not diving on that football. I was watching Thursday Night Football last night, and Justin Fields bobbled a snap and then didn't dive on the fumble and tried to recover it. So just driving me nuts. Whenever there's a fumble, just fall on it. It's a dead play. Just fall on it. It's done. It's done. It's over. So wish DR Hill would have made a little bit better of an attempt. But not sure what that, if it was a design, I don't know what that play call is in that position. And if it's not a design, really poor decision making by Cooper Perry to try to pitch it on that screenplay. Welcome everyone. I hope everyone's having a good Friday night. We made it to the weekend, and it was nice to have Oregon kind of in the center of the limelight. And I think this is going to, while Minnesota is not the toughest opponent, they are a well-coached football team. And we saw that multiple times tonight in different situations. And one of the broadcasters said it at halftime best of the Ducks realistically were playing a lot of NFL type concepts tonight, with the way that they were scheming guys open, the clinical nature that they were getting numbers in space and getting, we're going to out leverage you. We're not just going to be bigger, faster, stronger than you, but we're going to get guys into better positions. On those big explosive plays, it was, the skill players weren't having to make a ton of guys miss because of the scheme, and Will Stein doing a really good job of understanding what Minnesota wanted to do and putting his players in a good position. I love the use of Dante's legs tonight. I think he only ran it twice, but I've been calling it for it in the last couple of live streams of let's use Dante's legs some more. I think he may have gotten banged up a little bit again on his last scramble, but obviously he continued to play the game, so I think he's fine. But yeah, Dante Moore is very dangerous with his legs. We saw it against Iowa on the big long 40-yard rush. So love the use of Dante Moore's legs and using them earlier like he did tonight. Just great overall play calling by Will Stein. He had a definitive game plan. And really the only thing that it was missing for me was one of those elite 3-play sequences that Will Stein knows how to call and is really good at calling. Which granted, I totally understand not wanting to have to put that on tape against a team like Minnesota. Will Stein is doing a really good job of implementing new plays every week. And I know most play callers do that, but it's nice to see him constantly evolving. And, the Ducks have a top 10 rushing attack in the entire country in terms of rush yards per game. But he's still adding new things to this run game. So as much as I'm glad that it's, being a benefit for the Ducks this year, I think Will Stein is kind of coaching himself into a head coaching job somewhere else, but we still got a lot of football left this season. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Brock Thomas again in reserve time and garbage time, he looked phenomenal. 3 for 3 with 25 yards. He looks really good, and I absolutely believe Dan Lanning when he says to critics, Brock Thomas is our quarterback too, and he's earned it. So Brock Thomas looks great. That was a great pickup by the Ducks for a walk-on. So very, very happy with what at the beginning of the season was a 4th-string quarterback, or even 5th string. Noah Whittington. First of all, happy birthday to Noah Whittington's son, who is also named Noah. Noah Whittington had a great game tonight. Only 8 carries, but 72 yards for an average of 9 yards per carry. And one of the best plays of the year with that insane, looked like it was just going to be a first down. And then the offensive line came and kind of pushed the pile. And then Noah Whittington was able to break, 8 guys around him. Almost fumbled it at the end, but got control back at the last minute. And then another thing that we saw tonight that is absolutely operating at an NFL level is Dante Moore's ability to throw people open. And I've said it before on live streams, there's no defense for a perfectly thrown football. And we saw that tonight, most notably on, there was the Jeremiah McClellan touchdown that may or may not have been a touchdown, but throwing that back shoulder, and Dante Moore is so good at throwing the back shoulder, and that's such a hard throw to learn for a young guy. And McClellan wasn't open whenever Dante Moore let go of the ball, but because of the ball placement, he threw him open, and it just opens up the pass game and is just a nightmare for defenses that they can play good coverage, but there's no coverage for a perfectly thrown football. again, getting nitpicky here, there were a couple of hospital balls that Dante Moore threw, and he's thrown those throughout the season. Not as many as Dylan Gabriel, but that will eventually he'll grow out of that. Kenyon Sadiq had a phenomenal game. I know I briefly touched on it already, but 8 receptions, 96 yards, and 1 touchdown for Kenyon Sadiq. He's just an elite weapon. Freak athlete. I don't need to tell you guys that. But he can do so many different things. It's very rare to see someone with the receiving ability of Kenyon Sadiq with his blocking ability. And I know it's a really lazy comparison, but anytime there's an elite receiving weapon at the tight end position, it's going to be compared to Kyle Pitts when he was at Florida, or it's going to be Kittle, or it's going to be Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's really not like any of those people. He's most similar, I think, to probably Kyle Pitts' receiving ability, but Kyle Pitts has never been an awesome blocking option, despite his 6'6" frame. When Kenyon Sadiq is a very legitimate run blocker, and blocker out on the edge for stuff like wide receiver screens and stuff. And that's just so dangerous. And I also want to touch on Jamari Johnson as well. I've been a little critical of Jamari Johnson in live streams earlier on in the season, but he has really turned a corner after that Iowa game. I think after Gary Bryant Jr. went down, I think Jamari Johnson I saw it click in his eyes of like, okay, I've got to be the number 1 receiving option now. And I think he did that in the Iowa game. And I think tonight, I don't know whether it was Will Stein giving him more reps or something just clicked, but Jamari Johnson has looked really good the last few games. Really happy with him, and he's everything, maybe even a little bit more that Ducks fans thought he would be coming over from Louisville. Again, also need to touch on Roger Saleapaga. He's a phenomenal receiving threat. He's a little bit long and lanky. What is he measured at? Roger Saleapaga. 6'4", 245. Dang, that he's got a lot more weight on him than I thought he did. But the Ducks have 3 very good tight ends, which just makes it, I don't know. I just still can't get over Dante Moore's 90% completion percentage tonight. 27 of 30, 306 yards. I'm curious I'm going to check the NCAA stats. What is the record for passing completion percentage in a game? NCAA record passing completion percentage in a game. It says the record for completion percentage was 96% by Grayson Lambert of Georgia. 24 of 25. Anyway, 90% is insane. In case you guys don't know, in college, like a great college quarterback is somewhere around the 65 to 75% completion percentage. That's like a really good. So the fact that he did 90% is just insane, and huge credit to Will Stein. Of the last 3 seasons with Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, and now Dante Moore, they've all been up there, if not the leader for NCAA passing completion percentage. Just really impressive what Will Stein's doing. And a discussion that I've been seeing in the subreddit is Ducks fans, understandably so, being critical of people who are saying Will Stein should have been fired. And I just want to make something very clear. I never thought Will Stein should have been fired. There were just some things that I thought he could do better. But I'm sorry, the offensive coordinator that has a team in the top 10 in any statistic, but rushing or passing, but a rushing attack, you're really good. You are a phenomenal offensive coordinator. It doesn't matter if you have the very best players out there. to be in a top 10 in rushing or passing yards per game, you have to be doing something right. You can be critical of, red zone percentage or whatnot, but I've always thought Will Stein is a good offensive coordinator, but it's to be an elite national championship winning offensive coordinator, you can be a little nitpicky. And whenever Oregon played a zone heavy team in Indiana, there weren't enough zone options for Dante Moore. And Dante Moore proved tonight he can, manipulate safeties and linebackers with his eyes, and again, make people open that aren't open. And using Kenyon Sadiq, like the guys that I mentioned earlier, like the 49ers used Kittle, and like Travis Kelce's made his career of finding a soft spot in the zone and just sitting down and picking up a first down. We saw it multiple times tonight with Kenyon Sadiq's elite athleticism. Yes, he is great on corner routes. He is great at ripping the seam and stretching the field. But also, it's so impactful to have a tight end that can just find the soft spot in the zone and get easy first downs. And I think that's what we're seeing more of, is Dante Moore is able to get easy passes, whether it's a play action boot naked, easy toss to the tight end for a few yards, or just getting him out of the pocket. Dante Moore is phenomenal at throwing on the run outside of the pocket, delivering a perfect ball up on the face mask. And that really helps him get his confidence. And I think that's really huge for Dante. I think Dante Moore has all the tools to be a great quarterback and has the mental makeup. I've always been critical of Drew Aller because I don't think he has the mental makeup to be an elite quarterback. But Dante Moore, he has the beginnings. He's just an inexperienced quarterback, and he just needs a confidence boost and just needs to be comfortable and establish himself in a game. And really, we're seeing him grow every game. We're seeing Jordon Davison grow every game. I can't believe I haven't touched on him yet. 7 carries for 57 yards, average of 8.1 and 2 touchdowns. Just Jordon Davison is phenomenal, and he's only getting better. I liked RG3's name for him. He's one of God's favorites, just with the way that he is so jacked for a young guy. But he has great vision. Earlier on in the year, we saw him very much just rely on power down on the goal line and stuff. But as the season's gone on, we've seen more and more impressive uses of vision and finding creases in the defense before they appear. He's a really impressive back. It's not just about being bigger, faster, stronger. He has great vision and understands the movement of the offensive line and the movement of the defense and where holes are going to be before they're there. I'm going to actually look up who are the rushing leaders for rushing touchdowns this season. So the leaders at 16, and Davison after tonight will have 12. So technically, as of right now, he's tied for 7th most rushing touchdowns, which is just insane for a true freshman, for a young guy. He's not Derrick Henry size. Like, he is a great size, don't get me wrong. But what is he? 6 foot 236 as a 18-year-old. 6 foot 236. He's dense. But just playing at an elite level. I know a lot of people love De'Aaron Hill too, and I do as well. And he, in his own right, doesn't get enough credit. A lot of people say, oh, he's just an explosive lightning type back. He's got a lot of power. He's got great vision in his own right. He would be a starting running back at a lot of other programs as well. Jay Harris, in his own right, would be a starter at a lot of other places. And then I saw Kingston Lopa on the defense tonight, would be a starter at so many other places. Like, the Ducks have so much depth and so much talent. And Dan Lanning's doing a great job of making sure everybody eats. And I think also tonight's win obviously goes to Dan Lanning and getting his team ready to play on a short week, after a tough emotional battle. That could be a draining game. That's not easy to turn around and play six days later. I was a little nervous over the fact that the Ducks, they came off a bye, and your first game off a bye where, you're rested, is going to be a physical brawl like Iowa. And then you have a short week. That's not an easy 13 days. So huge credit to Dan Lanning getting this team ready to play. Huge credit to every Ducks player for having the mental fortitude to prepare in a short week after coming off an emotional win. It would be so easy to try to, sleepwalk through Minnesota. But PJ Fleck is a phenomenal football coach. He consistently has his team in bowl games, and it's just a very well coached football team. I love Minnesota's offensive game plan, and I haven't watched Minnesota football before tonight, and I love the offensive play calling. The way that they use trips, I think, is genius. There were so many times, especially in the first half, that they would show trips, but they never threw to it. And then finally, before halftime, they finally threw to it and got a positive chunk on it. And then later on in the game, they faked trips and then ran this. I loved their little Texas screen route, where the running back runs a Texas route, which is where he, runs 45 degrees to the right and then cuts inside or outside and then runs inside. But they leak out an offensive lineman in front of them. Genius play calling. Love that play call. So love Minnesota's play calling and their offense. They just unfortunately don't have the athletes that Oregon has. And then also Oregon's coordinators tonight were on point and were absolutely, of the quality of one of the best teams in the country, which I've been saying all season the Ducks are. I know all you guys know that they're one of the best teams in the country. And I think tonight, while Minnesota is not a top tier opponent, I think it's going to actually help Oregon's playoff resume, because it's furthering the story and furthering the idea that Oregon can win in whatever fashion they need to. They can win in an Iowa type fashion, in a brawl, in a dominant 3 yards cloud of dust. We can run the ball down your throat and we can stop the run. And we can do a 2-minute drill down the field at the last minute and kick a field goal. Or tonight, we can play in a very free, open, run and gun, fun offense. In the drive before halftime, they were, in the red zone within 40 seconds. So very impressed by Oregon. I hope that they take this moving forward, and I hope that they play every game from now on just like they played tonight. I think the offense in particular, that's where Oregon's at their best, is being a little aggressive, not being afraid of the down the field passing attack, getting Dante Moore easy out of the pocket throws in the beginning after establishing the run, kind of setting up some play action stuff for him. I think that's when Oregon's at their best, playing a balanced attack, but being aggressive and not being afraid of the down the field passing attack, I think is when Oregon's at their best. And frankly is unstoppable. We saw it during stretches of the Penn State game. They did a lot in the Rutgers game. They did a lot tonight. They did a lot in the Northwestern game. And they did in all of the earlier games in the season. So, Will Stein, please, 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 just keep calling plays like you did tonight. And the defense has been the strength all year. Will always be the strength, even, with the linebackers that could be better, but the defensive line is elite, and is going to generate a lot of those guys are going to be playing on Sundays. I saw it in the subreddit. A lot of the secondary guys are going to be playing on Sundays. The Ducks have so many guys that, it may take them a couple years to be draft eligible, but they are absolutely going to be playing on Sundays. It's really exciting to see. And it's going to be great for recruiting. I don't know if any of you guys keep up with Ducks recruiting, but 5-star commit Anthony Tank Jones, I believe, was in attendance for tonight. He was supposed to. A lot of teams are trying to flip him from Oregon. He's a Alabama product, and his family is a big Alabama. His family are big Alabama fans, so people are a little worried that he may flip to Alabama at the last minute, but a big win like tonight. And he is also going to be in attendance for the USC game next week. Big wins over that will go a long way. We're only about 3 weeks away from early signing day. So that would be really nice to land another elite edge rusher in Anthony Tank Jones. And if you guys don't keep up with the recruiting, maybe not this next week, but from the week of Thanksgiving up until the first or second week of December, I would just occasionally type in Oregon Ducks recruiting. There's going to be a lot of fireworks over those couple of weeks. If in case you don't know, so there is an early signing day now in December. Over the last probably 5 or 6 years, recruits can sign in December, and those are the recruits that then they graduate early, and then they're on campus in January, and then they're able to go all through spring practice, all through summer practice. And most elite recruits nowadays are doing that, and they're on campus in January. Just helps, get them on campus early, gets them, into the nutrition and the strength and conditioning program, and, helps them get their bodies more college ready. But the reason why I'm telling you to get your eye on Oregon recruiting over the next couple of weeks, and not be a sicko like me and try to keep up with it year round, is Dan Lanning is one of the best at flipping elite talent at the last minute. It's just something he's known for. Like, they flipped Naeem Offord at the last minute. He's just really, really good at flipping guys at the last minute. So there's going to be some fireworks. It's kind of cooled off on Richard Wesley, but I think that's a name to watch. He was committed to the Ducks for a while, 5-star edge rusher out of Texas, out of California, and then flipped to Texas. But I could easily see him flipping back to Oregon. There's a Utah running back named Bam Bell, I think, or Bell is his first name. I just know he goes by Bam, and he's committed to Utah right now. He's a heavy favorite to flip to Oregon, and seemingly Dan Lanning just pulls these guys out of nowhere. Caden Dixon-Wyatt, he's a wide receiver commit, currently committed to Ohio State. He's a name to watch to flip to Oregon, particularly if Oregon makes a deep playoff run. I could see that being great leverage. Well, that's actually too late for early signing day, but Oregon will at least flip one guy, whether it's Richard Wesley. I think the Utah running back is an absolute lock. He's from Portland, I believe. Utah 2026 football recruits. Yeah, LaMarcus Bell. He goes by Bam. He goes to Lake Oswego High School in the Portland area. He's a really heavy name to watch to flip to Oregon. And the Ducks actually recently flipped a linebacker recruit from Michigan State. I believe that was in the last couple of weeks. So if you don't keep up with Oregon recruiting, I would recommend doing it over the next few weeks. It'll be really interesting. And then moving forward to playoff rankings, it's a little hard to talk about playoff rankings tonight, obviously, because there's still a bunch of games on tomorrow. Excuse me while I pull up the playoff rankings. But a lot of the teams in front of Oregon have to play each other. So there's going to be some kind of cannibalism between these teams. So Alabama has a big game against Oklahoma. Ultimately, if you guys watched my live stream last night, I think Alabama is going to pull that one out, but certainly a tough game, and wouldn't be surprised if Alabama lost. Indiana has a very clear path to going undefeated. Ohio State, they have Michigan at the end of the year. That's an extremely tough game. Georgia, who does Georgia play tomorrow? Georgia football. Oh, Georgia plays Texas tomorrow. So between Alabama playing Oklahoma and Texas playing Georgia, those are two games that, very easily could drop teams that are in front of Oregon right now. And even though Minnesota isn't the best opponent, I think if those teams lose, Oregon's absolutely going to jump those teams. Which, I don't know if I see Oregon getting into a top 4 seed. They would obviously need Ohio State or Indiana to lose, and then Oregon winning the Big Ten championship game. which I think if Oregon gets to the Big Ten championship game, I think they do win. I think they're getting hot at the right time. The Iowa win was big, and they looked the best tonight that they've looked since the beginning of the season. And then next week's going to be a big game against USC. So these are all great momentum builders and opportunities to get the ball rolling and be a team like Ohio State last year that got hot at the right time and was just unstoppable. And I think Oregon absolutely has the talent to be unstoppable. We saw it tonight. We saw it against Penn State. We've seen it throughout periods of the season that Oregon has the talent to be unstoppable. It's just getting things to click and getting the right play calls in, like Will Stein called tonight and like Tosh Lupoy called tonight. I can't give enough credit to the coordinators. I've been really critical of Will Stein. Tonight he was amazing. And he deserves a lot of respect for the game plan that he called tonight. And then Georgia also has to play a tough Georgia Tech team. Conversely, if Georgia beats Texas and Georgia beats Texas Tech, that's a hard team for Oregon to be in front of. That's a great resume, particularly whenever you add in their win over Tennessee earlier on in the year. And they also had a big win over Ole Miss. Who does Ole Miss? Oh no, they played the Citadel. Ole Miss plays Florida this week. Florida's been so bad. It's really hard to see Florida winning on the road, but Florida has an elite defense and DJ Lagway has elite traits. He just hasn't been playing awesome as of late. And this isn't the Florida Gator show, so I don't want to go too deep into that. But where I'm going with this is there's a big opportunity this weekend for Oregon to make a jump into the college football playoff. I've been seeing this narrative online and ESPN broadcasters and whatnot of people saying, oh, the teams at the top, they have a really easy path to going undefeated. So I really think, the playoff rankings are kind of locked. This is college football, baby. Like, that's not how college football works. Whenever you least expect it, that's when teams are going to lose. Indiana almost lost to Penn State last week. That's why we love college football, because nothing's a given. There's no gimme putts in college football. Any given Saturday, that's why we all watch. I was watching the Thursday night football game last night with someone, and they were like, NFL is kind of boring. Like, everything's a little too clinical, and that's the best way of putting it is, for there to be kind of mistakes, like something has to really, really go wrong. And that's why I've always been more attracted to the college game. And as I get older, I appreciate the strategy in NFL football. So I appreciate it more, but I don't understand the allure to the casual fan of NFL football. I don't get it. I think college football is so much more entertaining. Even when in quote unquote a big blowout game like tonight, you have the Oregon Duck on the sideline, like twerking practically during one of the songs. Like, college football absolutely is amazing. And it's a great way of bringing everyone together. And that's why I do this. That's why I do this YouTube channel, is because growing up and, college football's always been a home for me. Like, the bringing together of people and the common language of speaking to people from all across the country, whether you're in Gainesville, Florida, or you're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or you're in Portland, Oregon, or you're in Los Angeles, California, or Syracuse, New York. College football has a phenomenal way of bringing everyone together. And that's why I'm so appreciative of guys like Lee Corso and, the entire College Game Day crowd of bringing guys together and still having fun at the same time, for something that's so beautiful and so powerful. So I digress, and I'll get back to football. There's a big opportunity for the Ducks to make a big jump in the playoff rankings, which I would really love. Of the teams in the playoff bracket, I don't want to play Ohio State. I think Oregon can beat any team in front of them. The one that I'm most concerned about is going to be Ohio State. I think I would absolutely pick Oregon over Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Georgia, Alabama. Texas A&M, you're starting to get into that territory of, it's more of a toss-up. Indiana, obviously they beat Oregon already, but I think Oregon could beat them with some better play calling. So Ohio State, don't want to play them in the second round. I think if Oregon can either work their way up or Ohio State loses to Michigan at the end of the year, that would be ideal. Um, I'm not saying Oregon's guaranteed to lose to Ohio State. This is purely hypothetical of that's the team I least want to play if I'm a well as a Ducks fan, that's the team I least want to play. Um, Outside of Ohio State and Indiana, man, like this Ducks team, if they play like they did tonight, and if they did like they did for stretches of that Penn State game, they are absolutely good enough to win a national championship this year. Particularly like look at the other teams in the bracket. So right now, the 12 seed would be USF. Obviously, the Ducks would beat the brakes off of them. Oklahoma, their offense is on the struggle bus, and that's Oregon's strength is the defense, so that really plays into their hand. Texas, they've been really inconsistent, and Arch Manning is getting better, and there's a lot of talent on that defense, but there's still just been something about they're not able to put everything together, so Oregon would absolutely beat them. Notre Dame, that offense is really inconsistent. They can be really good. They can be really bad. But I think Notre Dame's strengths play into Oregon's strengths as well. So I think it'd be an interesting matchup, but I think Oregon would beat Notre Dame. Ole Miss, that defense is not good. So as long as Will Stein is calling a masterful game like he did tonight, I think Oregon's in great hands in that game. Texas Tech has a great defense, but their offense I don't think is as good as everyone thinks it is. And I think there are more holes on that defense than a lot of people may want to admit. So I would again take the Ducks in that one. Georgia, their offense has been so inconsistent, and I think Dan Lanning is every game Georgia has played recently has been a really close game, and they have talent and they have great coaching and they have a lot of experience, and that has helped propel them to victories in those close games at the last minute. Dan Lanning is cut from the same cloth as Kirby Smart, and they proved against Iowa and they proved against Penn State. This team has guts. So, and honestly, Oregon has just as much talent as Georgia, if not more. I know that's going to be a hot take. If there's any viewers in the SEC watching at 1:45 time, Eastern time, that's going to be a really hot take with them. But I think Oregon absolutely has just as much, if not more talent than Georgia. While it would be a struggle against that defense has looked mortal at times this season, and their offense really struggles a lot. Can't run the ball, and that's Oregon's, if there is a weakness on defense, it's running the ball, and they're getting better at that. So that'd be a really tough matchup for Georgia. So again, I'm picking the Ducks against Georgia. Alabama can't run the ball either. And I think Alabama's defense has a lot of holes on it. Alabama's defense it wasn't amazing to begin with, and then they've been dealing with injuries throughout the year. So again, I'm taking the Ducks in that one. Texas A&M starts to get into that territory if it's more of a toss-up. I think they have an elite defense. They have a really tough quarterback to stop in Marcel Reed. But in certain quarters of the season, that offense has certainly looked mortal and has really not done much. But they can also put 42 points up at the same time. And then we saw what Oregon did against Indiana. And then Ohio State. Ohio State's really tough. They have a great defense. They have great red zone defense. Julian Sain is playing out of his mind for a redshirt freshman. Obviously, they have the elite weapons on the outside with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and then, excellent running back and Bo Jackson. In all that, I'm saying the Ducks, I think, have an excellent chance and possibility of pushing for a national championship this year, particularly if they get the luckier break in the seeding that Penn State got last year. I don't need to tell Ducks fans this, but if Oregon would have got the Penn State path to the championship last year, Oregon absolutely would have been in the title game. And I think this team is better. So it really just depends on what teams they play when, but at the end of the day, you need to beat the best to be the best. So while there's only 2 regular season games left, there's a lot of football left for the Ducks to play. There's a lot left to play for, obviously. So it's really exciting. And this young team can grow up a lot over the next few games. USC at home is going to be a great opportunity for this team. It's going to be really interesting to see the benchmark against an elite offense. It's been a few weeks since we've played one. So going to be really interesting to see that. Brandon Finney Jr. versus Mekhi Lemons going to be primetime entertainment. Really excited for that. But they have other weapons as well. So it's gonna, the Ducks defense is gonna have to be excellent against USC, but USC's defense is absolutely mortal. So I think as long as, again, Wilstein calls a game like he did tonight, Oregon can put up 40 points on USC without a doubt. And USC, they struggled against Illinois earlier on in the year against a physical run game. Well, Oregon can do that. And tomorrow is going to be an interesting benchmark. For Ducks fans, I would recommend watching the USC game tomorrow if you can. USC plays Iowa in Los Angeles, 12:30 Pacific time. Highly recommend watching that one if you can, just because that's going to be a great benchmark of what next week's game is going to be. If Iowa can hang in there with USC, that gives a lot of hope for Ducks fans that, they can really dominate USC. But tomorrow's going to be a great indicator of that. So that's going to wrap up tonight's show. And next week I'll definitely be doing a live stream. I may do on Tuesday reacting to the playoff rankings release. And then I may do another preview of the upcoming game like I did earlier this week. But make sure you are subscribed and turn on those post notifications, and please like this live stream if you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact. It's a great day to be a Ducks fan, and I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. My name is Zach with the Sports Corner at Choose Adventure Media. Thank you so much for watching.